Tonight, restlessness about the economy now growing following President Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on products from Canada, Mexico, and China. Joining us to talk about the impacts you could see first is Pete Sepp, president of the National Taxpayers Union. Pete, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We know we could see impacts from this basically everywhere, from the grocery store, the new car lot, but where do you think Americans will feel this first?
I think agricultural products, anything that the United States tries to export, that's going to be subject to retaliatory tariffs. Look at electricity. I am hearing reports already that in northeastern states, electricity rates are going up directly as a result of the tariffs on Canadian energy. We all don't realize that a lot of the electricity up near Canada is actually brought into the United States from there. We'll look for higher prices on automobiles, video games, toys, a whole host of items, and the retaliatory tariffs from the affected countries, Canada, Mexico, and China, have only begun. Canada has said they're going to slap tariffs on $100 billion worth of exported U.S. goods to that country. So it's no wonder that markets are reacting very harshly right now. And interestingly, market futures are rising on the news from Commerce Secretary Lutnick that there might be a compromise in the offing.
I want to get back to the countries that you mentioned in just a moment. But first, Pete, how much more, do you have a figure on this? How much more could the typical household have to shell out in a year? Because it sounds like, as we mentioned, almost everything will be impacted for consumers.
Yeah, these are moving targets, unfortunately, because the tariff policies shift almost daily. But the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico, plus the 10% on China, were originally calculated to cost the typical American family nearly $800 per year. But of course, there's an extra 10% now on Chinese imports that's simply going to be reflected in higher prices for consumers or U.S. businesses that use Chinese materials. So my guess is we're looking at north of $1,000 a year per family when you include that extra Chinese tariff, and perhaps even more if the softwood tariffs that are currently going to be investigated under the president's executive order actually come to pass. President George W. Bush instituted those during his administration, and the results were quite harsh for the home building industry here in the United States.
Interesting global perspective there. Pete Sepp, thank you for joining us tonight on the National News Desk.
My pleasure.